And go. This is Dominaria United top 10 instant and sorcery cards that I believe are going to be in play and useful. Now, I'm not going to include any of the reprints because those cards are already been in play in past sets, and we know their power level. We know that those cards will see play in some form or another. But first up is Urtai's Scorn, a new counter spell in 2 blue and 1 colorless. For an instant that reads, this spell costs 1 blue less to cast if an opponent casts 2 or more spells this turn. Now, when I went over this section, I really touched on this. This is going to be, if not in a counter spell deck, it will definitely see play if you're playing, any kind of counter stuff in a commander set. Because how many counter spells does a commander need if you're playing counter spell in commander? Every last one of them. That's what they'll say. This is what they call another blue hate card. And if your opponent is playing a weenie deck, or like I said, in my spoiler video, like a spell slinger deck where they're playing counter burn or something along those lines, where they're casting quick spells like that, using all their mana. No. So, or especially if they're doing some crazy ramp thing, like you see a lot in commander deck. So this is going to see play in commander, maybe a little bit in standard modern, but definitely you'll see this in a sideboard. So next up is we're gonna go down and is a card that was spoiled at the very, very beginning. In Temporal Firestorm. This is the new board wipe for this set. Temporal Firestorm is 2 red, 3 colorless for a sorcery with a kicker of 1 white and 1 colorless, and or 1 blue and 1 colorless. Choose up to X creatures and or planeswalkers, where X is the number of times this spell was kicked. Those permanents phase out. Temporal Firestorm does 5 damage to each creature or planeswalker. It feels a lot like Burn Down the House. It's a sweeper spell. This wipes the board. But I wouldn't consider it actually a sweeper as more a board wipe. Well, no, my bad. Not a board wipe, but a sweeper. A board wipe is something like, Wrath of God. You get rid of everything. But a sweeper is something that you get rid of all your opponent's creatures, and yours are protected. So this is kind of like a sweeper. Because with a sweeper, if you're sweeping something, you have a dustpan that you sweep all the dirt into. So the dustpan is always on your side, and you're protected from the dirt. So this allows you to protect creatures and or planeswalker. Up to two creatures or planeswalkers. So it's useful, but you've got to spend that extra 2 to 4 mana, and 5 for is a standard for a standard for a board wipe sweeper spell. So it's going to see some play, but probably not as much as you think. Next up is Impede Momentum. One One blue and one colorless for a sorcery that reads tap a target creature, put 3 stun counters on them. Scry 1. Now, for those of you that don't know, these stun counters, if a permanent with a stun counter on it would become untapped, remove it one from it instead. This is the new this is the new evergreen mechanic that they've introduced with the stat, stun counters. This 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 it used to be that you had uh, you tap a creature and it does not untap during its controller's untap step. During the next untap step, which we now refer to as freeze spells, because a lot of them have wording in them that's like have to do with ice or whatever. But impede momentum makes it so you can't untap it artificially. You can't use something else to untap your creature. So if it untaps, you remove a stun counter from it. So it's still tapped. But so this one in especially, there's a number of them in this set, but this one especially is very powerful, because for a very low casting cost of 1 blue and 1, you put 3 of them and you scry 1. There is serious value there. You don't want this. If you don't want something being untapped, that's the card to use, and I believe that it will see play. Next up is kind of a tie. There's 2 of them here, and I went with another stun counter card in Stall for Time, and it's 1 white, 2 colorless for an instant with kicker of one blue and 1 colorless. Tap up to 2 target creatures. If this spell was kicked, put a stun counter on each of those creatures and draw a card. Now, tapping creatures is something that white does. We've seen that in many other white cards throughout Magic. It does good values. It taps 2 creatures. If you spend the extra 1 blue and 1, you put stun counters on them so they don't untap during their next untap step, and you can't untap them artificially. And you get the added value of you drawing a card. And I think Wizards and the people at Wizards have finally realized that card draw in white is absolutely necessary. So next up is another card that next up at number 7 is Tolarian Geyser. 1 blue and 2 with a kicker of white. Return target creature to its owner's hand. draw a card. If this spell was kicked, you gain 3 life. Now, 1 blue and 2 is good for is standard for a bounce spell like this is. So it's a sorcery. It's so 1 blue and 2 for a sorcery with kicker white. Turn target creature to its owner's hand. Draw a card, and if it was kicked, you gain 3 life. 1 blue and 2 is good for just a generic bounce spell. You also get to draw a card. So there's value in that in itself. And if you kick it, if you spend that extra 1 white mana and spend the 4 mana, you bounce a creature, you draw a card, and you gain 3 life. That is powerful. It will see play. I don't care. And I'd put up that meme. Prove me, the guy sitting at the desk. Prove me wrong. So at number 6, we have uh-oh. Ay, ay, ay. Somehow I messed up. Okay, I'm gonna get it down to it. I apologize. I apologize. I messed up my screen somehow. Come on, scroll, scroll, scroll. There you are. Next up at number 6 is Cut Down. 1 black mana, destroy target creature with total power and toughness 5 or less. So 1/4, 0/5, 1/4s, 2/3s, 3/2s, 4/1s. Any one of those type of creatures. These are creatures you're gonna see. Your lower power creatures. It's good for weenie. It's cheap. At 1 black mana, you can get rid of your lower power and toughness creatures. Definitely will see play for certain. Okay. At number 5, we're going to talk about Extinguish the Light. At 2 black and 2 colorless, destroy target creature or planeswalker. It's 2 black and 2 colorless for an instant that reads destroy target creature or planeswalker. If its mana value was 3 or less, you gain 3 life. So, this is a standard, pretty much standard spot removal in black. And it's creature or planeswalker. Now, if its mana value is 3 or less, you gain 3 life. This is one of the reasons why in my top 10 creatures and planeswalkers, I chose Liliana of the Veil at number 10 because of a card like this. This card gets rid of, gets rid of your opponent gets rid of your planeswalker, and she has a mana value of 3. So not only does your opponent get rid of your Liliana of the Veil, but they also gain 3 life. That's not good for you, or because your opponent has gotten rid of your planeswalker and they've gained life. But when using this on other people, it's a bonus to you. It's bonus, for you choosing, especially if somebody wants to pay the life to bring in their completed Johnny. He's considered a 3 uh, a 3 mana cost because you paid the life. If you do it the Phyrexian way, you paid the life, and he's only considered a 3 mana cost. And there are other creatures here. I just scrolling up so that I can move to the next one. Things like Rivas of the Claw and Tatiova, Steward of Tides. They're 3 mana, and you can gain all sorts of life. There's all sorts of cards in these in this set that are 3 mana or less. So that kind of spot removal is good. It will see play. Now, let me go. Here we go. Next up at number 4 is Battle Rage Blessing. Sorry, my side of my nose itched. At 1 black and 1 colorless for an instant, it reads, target creature gains Death Touch and Indestructible till end of turn. That is super useful. And I apologize. I'm holding I talk with my hands, and I'm holding my sheet. I have to write these down. Actually, had to write these down on sheets and actually put them where they were. I learned from the first video. I actually put that on a sheet as well, because when looking up the cards, on the spoiler pages, then I have I have to look up these things. But my video's getting long, so I don't want to spend too much time. Battle Rage Blessing, you gain Death Touch and Indestructible till end of turn. If somebody's gonna fight spell you, or do something like that, you put this is very cheap. Put it down. You don't die, and they do. Hoo ha! Okay. Next up is I'm gonna try to find it here. It's Take Up the Shield, and again, this is a lot like Battle Rage Blessing. Please excuse me. I'm scrolling. And it's the Take Up the Shield is 1 white and 1, and it reads, is that? There it is. It's an instant that reads: put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, gains life length and indestructible till end of turn. A lot like your battle rage blessing, protect your creature, and you have the life gain and a +1/+1 counter, so you can survive fight spells and stuff like that. And next up, again, another powerful card in Tolarian Geyser. Tolarian Geyser is... Did I put that down already? Please remind me in the comments. But Tolarian Geyser is one blue, 2 colorless for a sorcery that reads Kicker of White. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Draw a card. If this spell was kicked, you gain 3 life. Well, this is absolutely... I think I spoke about it when I was talking about it, Stall for Time, because just Stall for Time is just practically right above it. So yes, Tolarian Geyser is on my list. It is higher up because of the absolute value that you gain from this. It is in my number 2. And I do apologize for that. Sometimes I look at cards and forget that I had that on the list because it was further down the list. And finally, we're going to go to it's Heirloom Battle Hymn. 1 red, 2 colorless for an instant that has Kicker of 1 white. Heirloom Battle Hymn deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If this spell was kicked, you gain 4 life. 3 casting cost for a 4 damage spot removal for creatures and planeswalkers, or creature or planeswalker. Hoo-ha! That in itself is a super value. You don't get that anywhere. And if you spend that extra 1 white mana and spend a regular 4 casting cost for a spot removal of this level, you get the 4 damage and you gain 4 life. That is absolute value. If you're playing a red deck, you want this in your red deck. If you have any white that you're playing, if you're playing Boros, you're having this card in your deck. In standard, you're having 4 copies of this in your deck. This is an automatic include if you have red and white in any type of commander or any type of commander deck. This is my number 1 pick for a card that will see a lot of play, and it's only an uncommon. It's going to be easy to get, and it is going to see tons of play, and people are gonna start to hate this card because at 4 mana you can get rid of angels, and angels are some of the worst things to come out on the board because your normal spot red spot removal does 3 damage. It doesn't get rid of stuff like angels. But this does 4 damage. This will take out an angel. This will take out, some of your mid-tier planeswalkers, or planeswalkers that are starting to try to build up after they put their protection out. And if you kick it, you gain the 4 life. There is no reason not to use that card. I'm at 25 minutes. I still have enchantments that I'm going to go over. There's a bunch of enchantments that I know and are going to see a lot of play in this set. We have the sagas back. There's quite a few that are going to see play, especially with this new read ahead mechanic. So I'm going to say it's almost 26 minutes. We're going to end the video here. See you on the next Top 10 Dominaria United video.